Welcome, everybody. Used to, on a normal day, you'd see Phil Harris over there where Howie Cheney sat. But tonight, we were switching it up on Mr. Harris, and we're going to make him the guest of the night. There's a lot of reason we wanted to have Phil in, but not the least of them, Phil. What is it, 32 years in broadcasting now for you?
Yeah, but this fall will be 32. Yeah, I'll be going into the 32nd year. It's been a fun ride.
Now, when you started broadcasting, you started out smoke signals, didn't
Yeah,
you?
definitely. On them old Marty systems. That's back a long time ago. People remembers the Marty system, basically smoke signals. And if the Marty was on, you drowned out everything else. So, yeah, it's a whole totally different time now.
I think I sat next to that Marty system enough that when I drive under a red light, it changes colors. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that thing did something to me. Because when you turned it on, it would hum.
Yeah.
Well, Phil, there's a couple other things we wanted to talk to you. And one of them, we're going to jump down the road, but we want to keep pushing it all through the night, is the Transplant Games. And we're not going to talk about them yet. We'll get to them a little bit down, but we want to put up this website. Also, I noticed Phil, I didn't want him to know we were going to push that today, so I just snuck it on the announcement a couple hours ago. And if you go to RiverCity Media, pinned to the top is a opportunity for you to support Phil and many, many other athletes in the Transplant Games. Phil, it's this summer, correct?
Yes, in July, around the 6th, I believe. Maybe the 5th. The opening ceremony, I think, is on the 6th, and it runs through the 10th. And it's a huge thing. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm on the executive committee, but I'm also going to participate. And I just thank the Lord that I'm well enough that I'm going to be able to participate in the games.
We've had a guest on here, Howie, who talked about the Transplant Games. And I feel, since having our guest on and talking about it with you, I think this serves two purposes. One is to show the world that the transplant survivors can compete. And two, to heal a lot of pain that's been involved and also give back to the donor families.
Oh, definitely so. I mean, because you've got the Transplant Games in America going on. You've also got the legacy of hope, which you're involved in when you're going through all the transplant things that are going on. And of course, the big thing is donate life, and that's where you become an organ donor because there's a lot of people benefit. I'm 4 years out from my transplant, and if it wasn't for my donor, I wouldn't be here today.
Absolutely. And your health's so much better. People don't talk about it, but it's a different lifestyle. I was with you every day, or at least once a week, when you were the sickest, and your liver was failing you, to your lifestyle today. It's the difference in night and day.
Oh, definitely so. I mean, that's like when I went back on the scoreboard, I could tell my mind was a lot clearer. I was a lot more crisp in my thinking. A lot of that has to do with blood flow, and that, comes from your liver. So, it made a real difference, and I could just about instantly tell the difference as soon as I got my transplant, because I really didn't realize how sick I was.
Well, Phil, we're thankful for it. I don't know if your mind's any better. I'm going to disagree with that part.
It's just faster. It's just faster.
We'll talk about that later. I can't tell with you being in your 50s whether it's sped up or not. Howie Cheney, you've known Phil a long time yourself, and we're here to talk about the fella and talk about his career. You started with him early on, didn't you?
I did. The first time I ever heard of Phil Harris was, I was real young, and I went to the.
He was old too, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was old back then.
Yeah.
So I went to the mailbox and got this little local circular out called the Groundhog, and I opened it up and look, and of course I wanted to look at the sports section, and of course the person that wrote all the articles in it was Phil Harris. And so that was the first time I ever actually experienced Phil or heard anything about him. And then later on, I met Phil through Leroy at WFPA when Leroy was doing some of my ball games, and got to know him. And we became friends. And I think the first time we ever did a game was at the Civic Center back then, maybe the county tournament, the DeKalb County tournament. And I ran into you somewhere and you said, "Hey, you want to help?" I said, "Yeah." And when I went and sat down at the table, the first thing you did was, "Okay, we're fixing to go on the air now. What's your name?"
Yeah.
You didn't even remember what my
name was. Yeah, I had forgotten. Yeah, I just totally went blank. So that's liver fate.
Yeah, I don't think it was the liver back then. Hey, we'll have a lot of these tonight.
And I do remember that, Howie, because I just went blank. I mean, I did. I went blank that night. I don't know what happened.
Jeremy Jones with "Hello, Phil, good guy and great and friend." He's got a Brave symbol up, so you got to know he's a good guy, Phil.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Yeah, I think we're Jeremy.
But that time, we did a lot of games together at Civic Center all around. We did. I ain't done as many with Phil as you have, Randy, but we've done them in some crazy places. I remember one night we did a Crossville football game and ended up having to set out outside the press box, so they wouldn't let us in the press box. And we've gone different places to do games and not have any service, no signal, and we're able to sit back and enjoy the game and not really have to work them. But we've everywhere from Higdon to Jacksonville, Alabama, we've done ball games.
Yeah, I remember, the night we went to Crossville, there was plenty of room in the booth, but they wouldn't let us in. And in Plainview beat Crossville that night. So it's kind of a bit, satisfying that really happened because all the people around us was Crossville folks.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I remember that. But, yeah, we did a lot of football games. And, when you trigger a memory, you about remember every one of them. But, but it's been so much fun over the years.
And me and you and we loaded up the van from Scottsbury. It's me, you, and Miss Chrissy, and I think Smash was with us, and maybe Waylon. And we took off and did a Valley Head game over at Wadley, I think it was. And that was one of the nicest press boxes I think I'd ever been in. And you even made the comment, "This is the nicest press box I've ever been in up to that point."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because a lot of times, you're stuck outside or you're in a cracker box, and it's tough. So if you get a nice nice press box, and of course, over the years, it's gotten a lot better. But it used to be most press boxes were cracker boxes.
And this press box had its own little heat and air unit. So we had it made that night. Even though it was cold outside, we was inside and we was able to stay nice and warm.
I think that's where I kind of do better by being in studio now, because over time, and I think you're like that way with football, Howie. You like the inside controlled environment football. I like the inside controlled environment on the scoreboard show. And as you get a little older, that cold bothers you, that rain bothers you, but you don't have to do it. You don't have to deal with it when you sit inside.
Up until about 3 years ago, until Phil found out I had to go to every game because of Jeannie being in the band. Once a year, I get a text from Phil saying, "Well, I don't guess you're going tonight because it's down in the 40s."
Yeah.
It's not a dome. Or you send me a text saying, "I guess you'll be finding a place in the press box to see it since it's a little bit rainy outside." So, but we've had a lot of good times. And, we talk about on the other show about some of the text messages that we group chats and stuff that we got going on. But let's say right here, we've got some pretty good group chats that goes on occasionally as well.
Yeah, a lot of stories to tell and to add. Yeah, it's always been fun. I can remember, some of those text messages. You would ask me if I was going to a game. I said, "Not unless they're playing in a dome tonight."
and for the longest, and I'll come clean on this. For the longest, I had Jamie Lee send you text because you didn't have her number, and she'd send you random stuff occasionally, and you didn't catch on for the longest, I don't think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I probably didn't catch on now. She could probably send me anything. I wouldn't know the difference.
Hey, we got another message on there, Randy. There you go.
Mr. Valleyhead, our Phil Harris from Stacy Smith.
Yeah, that now Stacy, I have to tell you about him. Now he's called Hero, and you'll have to, if you ever talk to him live, you'll have to, he'll have to tell you the story of why he's called Hero. But yeah, Stacy was a teammate in high school and a good friend, still good friends. But yeah, it's good to hear from you.
You mean there's actually people out there same age as you are?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. He was a class below me, so he's probably right around my age, though. Yeah. He
played with leather helmets and 1-bar face mask too.
Yeah, right in that tearaway jerseys.
Tearaway jersey.
I think Bill was actually broadcasting when the Ark was being built.
Yeah. I told the story about it. I think I wrote it down somewhere.
Randy, go ahead, buddy.
Well, I hate making fun of Phil's age because I'm actually a year older than he is. So
yeah, you got the AARP letters long before I did.
I know you sent them to me. Phil, we both had the same person, very influential to us to get into broadcasting. I was about a year ahead, and I had no broadcasting experience. I didn't know what I was doing. They'd put a mic in front of me and I'd talk. But then you got brought in a year later as kind of a little more polished. Even though you hadn't broadcast, you definitely had more of a plan than I ever did to how to broadcast. And that would be Mr. Leroy Stansel brought us both in.
Oh yeah, because I can remember back in the days is when this really come about to me get started. I broke my ankle playing basketball, and I was down for about 6 weeks, and it was right after my dad died. So I had a lot of thinking to do, and I always wanted to be broadcasting when I was young. I knew when I was 9 years old it's what I wanted to do. So I got to thinking, what can I do to get myself into this? So I thought, I'll just take a shot. So I called Leroy. I called WFPA because I knew they did ball games. And I called Leroy and talked to him. And he said, well, Phil, I really don't have anything for you. He said, but I tell you what, I can't pay you anything. But if you want to come do color on basketball games, you're welcome to come and see how you like it. Well, first night I was hooked. And, of course, he invited me back, and then it led to that. But, Leroy was a big inspiration. Him and Ron Livengood both kind of paved the way to get me started. And it's like any kind of story you have about people. There's somebody out there that gives you that opportunity. And Leroy Stansel was the first one to open the door for me.
And I believe it was 2 years you and Leroy and myself were together as a broadcast team all over DeKalb County. And it may be the funnest 2 years I ever had because Howie, believe it or not, Phil and Leroy's instruction was to give me a live mic and go find people to talk to. So that was your instruction to me.
Yeah, and crazy, you'd have to find him. If you went down to him, you'd have to find him. He might be in the concession stand. One time we went down to him and he's in the band. So in a Sylvania Fife game, he's in the band. And he does something in the band. And also at one time he got the cheerleaders to do a cheer to say hello to me and Leroy during the game. But that was the thing. Randy wasn't where he was supposed to be. You just had to find him during the game. And you just say, okay, Randy, it's you, because you didn't know what you was going to get.
Well, after a while, you got me a little more serious. When we separated, you gave me some advice, actually. And I went to do color on my own. And when you went to Scottsboro, I believe, and I went to Fort Payne originally, and then I went to North Jackson. Your advice was very simple, and I remember it to this day. It was to make it about what's going on in the field, and mamas and daddies like hearing people's names. And I mean, that was your advice.
Yeah, that's the whole point. I mean, all through I have done this, and this is what I wanted to add into this is when you start getting a little older, there's a whole lot more years behind you than there are years in front of you. And I think that's called wisdom. And after a while, you want to pass on your wisdom to other people. So where do you start? You start with young people. and you mention their names, you put them on a pedestal, you make them feel good about themselves, because that's what this is all about, because you want them to be following your footsteps and be good people when they get out in the real world. Because after a while, we broadcast sports and do sports. It's a game, but it becomes serious when they finish their playing day.
And you have so many people that know you. We have several of them that left some comments for you. One of them was Coach Hammond at Valley Head. Phil's a lifelong friend. He's loved the ball and the students of the athlete. Always unbiased and puts players first. Does a good job covering all the programs in the tri-state area. Phil, I think this sums up what you are as a broadcaster. Kids first, kids first, kids first.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain teams I root for. There's certain colors I root for. But at the end of the day, when they take their hats off, they're people. And that's, you have to work with these people. You have to live with these people. It don't matter where they go to school, who they're rooting for. But at the end of the day, you root for people. And that's what this is all about. At the end of the game, you want them to become a better person.
Absolutely. Howie, I'll turn it over to you for a few questions. One time, my favorite story he never tells, he threw it to me, and I was in the bathroom, and it was 3rd and 1, or 4th and 1, and I told him I looked short. Turned out I was right. So I made a call from the bathroom that was correct on the field. Proud of that to this day.
When we do basketball, when we do the basketball games, we did the Jackson DeKalb County tournament this year, and I would kick us off, and Phil kind of thought I was making fun of him, I think, or kind of picking at him, but I'd always say the voice of DeKalb County basketball and the living legend, one or the other, and it's true, Phil. I mean, you anywhere you go in DeKalb and Jackson County, they used to know you for basketball mainly, but now they know you from the scoreboard show.
Yeah. And I guess, over time I must have done more things right than wrong. But it started out, I did this for myself. And then after a while, it got to be for others. And I just enjoyed it, and I'm not the kind of person that beats their chest, but, it's nice to get patted on the back every once in a while. But I just enjoy sharing stories. When I see the games, I try to figure out a little bit of a drama during the game while I'm telling the story, and it adds so much perspective because it's more than just the score and the time. When you're broadcasting, you're telling a story and you want to share that with others.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing that we talked about in the past, as far as we would do the Jackson County tournament, DeKalb County tournament. We do the local teams, but then once the region took place, they would change over to somebody else that did not have a clue about how that team got there, or what may have, just like Ider, they didn't know how Ider's girls really got there, but they got there without their star player for most of the season.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no story.
Yeah. They couldn't get that story in there like you would always put in there.
Well, there's no storylines. And this is one I'm going to share. You and I did the DeKalb County tournament when Ider played Sylvania. And, McKinley Traylor, she dressed, but we knew she wasn't going to play, but we was wondering why she dressed. And then the technical foul come. They walked her out on the floor, and she shot 2 free throws. And it was a very monumental moment because you could tell from the bench what she meant to that team. And she walked out on the floor, and you could feel the energy really, kind of balloon into the Civic Center. Well, then you could tell she was a little nervous. She knocked down both free throws, but then everybody stood up and gave her a standing ovation as she walked back to the bench. That was a monumental moment. That was something that needed to be shared. And I even talked to Coach Jamie Pruitt about it, and he said that was the plan. If we could get a technical foul, she was going to shoot the technical.
Right. You're talking about monumental moments and stuff like that. Can I ask you what's your most favorite game you've ever done?
Like football, probably. Yeah. The best game I ever did that I enjoyed the most was when one year, and I don't remember what year it was, but it was when Brett Tinker played at Ider. And I think it was the last time Ider beat Plainview. And in the second half, Brent Tinker took over that football game. And it was amazing to watch him take over in the fourth quarter. And they were tied in the fourth quarter. And he took that team down the field, and they beat Plainview. I think it was 21-14. But that was probably my favorite game of broadcasting because of an individual's performance.
You know, Randy, I've done quite a few games. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Randy.
What you're talking about, Phil, one that I had wrote down that we had done together was Sylvania and Colbert County. And I think similar to that night, that might be my favorite game ever. We saw Steve Stanley kind of take over for Colbert County that night in the same. But we also saw Josh Anderson have a great game for Sylvania. Still talk about that game till this day. When Hallie and I interviewed Coach Benefield a couple of years ago, he was talking about the game. That's one of the historical games, most historical games, I think, I broadcast. How do you look at it that way?
Yeah, that's one you remember. You know, Albert County had a screw up on a punt, got a first down out of it. Actually got a touchdown, ended up getting a touchdown out of it. And then, of course, Sylvania's quarterback broke his hand, and Coach Benefield's talked about that. In those days, if they would have been in shotgun, that broken hand might have not have been a difference, but he had to take the snap under center, and it made a difference in that game. Yeah, there was a lot of things that happened in that game that made it so dramatic because Sylvania actually had a chance to win that game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think if they won it, they win the state. Because if I'm not wrong, Colbert County went on to win the state.
Yeah, because that was one good football team. Sylvania was very good.
Yeah. Howie, sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted, you were on the subject there, and I wanted to come back to that.
No, that's great. That's fine. You know, I'm going to ask you this question, but it's about Phil, Randy. But you know, I'm sitting here, I'm drinking a swig of water every once in a while. You're getting whatever you're drinking there. Have you ever done a game and watched Phil ever drink anything?
No, I haven't.
Not even on this podcast. I don't know how he can manage to do it, but he doesn't ever drink water type of liquid while he's doing a game.
I show up to do a Sequatchie County game with two 24-ounce bottles of water, and my mouth's so dry I can't get through it. And the more excited I get, the more it gets dry. So Phil's always calm. I'll give him that, and that is part of your style. You're pretty calm when the booth, Phil.
Yeah. Most time, you know, I guess it's because of observing. I'm always looking for a storyline, some kind of edge. So I'm really concentrating on the game. You know, there's times to have fun, but a lot of times, you know, I try to stay calm. It's just always been my demeanor. And I think a lot of that comes because most of the games I've ever broadcast is I have to be impartial. One thing Ron Livengood used to get on to me for, he goes, Phil, I want you to be more pro Scottsboro. And I said, well, Ron, it's hard to do. He said, well, just try. He said, I want you to be more pro Scottsboro. And I said, I will try. I said, but most of the broadcasting I've ever done is I need to be in the middle. And I kind of like to stay that way because everybody that's listening to you ain't for the team that you're rooting for.
Hey, I actually got fired from South Pittsburgh when Ron Livengood sent me up there because I was not a homer, you know, because that's what we had worked at for years and years. So that's a great inroad to that. We've been moving around the county for years, just doing games here, crazy band breaks down halfway to a game. We might be in Collinsville for basketball and at Civic Center for football or on basketball on Saturday. But you finally took a full-time, one-station job when you moved to Scottsboro with Ron Livengood. What was that like? How's that different than what we were doing?
Yeah, well, it made put it to where I needed to be a little more partial. And then after a while, I got to where I was doing that. As a matter of fact, I would get under North Jackson fans' skin. And when I figured out I was doing that, I kind of like put a little salt on the wound. I know one time that Scottsboro was playing in 5A and North Jackson played in 4A. Well, North Jackson played against teams that were, and it wasn't their fault. It was just the way the schedule was, but their schedule wasn't very difficult. And kind of sort of made a comment about cream puff schedule, and boy, it upset them big time. I mean, I was on a pregame show, and the guy that was doing it asked me about that because he had gotten under North Jackson's fan skin. Of course, I explained what I meant by that. His Scottsboro schedule was a lot tougher, but it wasn't North Jackson's fault. I wasn't poking fun of it, but when I figured out it got under their skin, I had a little insult to injury every once in a while because with North Jackson and Scottsboro, it's such a rivalry that they're going to throw pop shots at you. It's Dave Williams. He did play-by-play for North Jackson. They would throw pop shots at us. So in turn, it was fair to throw pop shots back at them. It was part of the rivalry. It wasn't personal or anything like that, but it's just part of the rivalry.
I spent a year with David Williams at North Jackson before I moved back to Chattanooga and then moved on to South Pittsburgh. And he took great pride in throwing shots at Scottsboro.
Yeah, definitely. I tried not to because I was more focused on – I was worried about what Scottsboro was doing, not what everybody else was doing.
Phil, was there – I left broadcasting for several – after my daughter was born and some personal issues that I needed to take care of. I stayed out probably most part of a decade. I would still do occasional things. I would still come down and do games with you occasionally. I would occasionally go do a game here in Chattanooga when one of the local stations were looking for somebody. But I wouldn't 10 days. I wouldn't 10 games a year tied to a press box. Did you ever get to the point where you just wanted to walk away from it for a while? Because it does become not burdensome. That's the wrong way to say it. It's busy. It makes your life busy when you're broadcasting every Friday night.
Yeah, I don't think I ever got to that point, but I got to where maybe it wasn't a lot of fun, and that's what happened to me at Scottsboro. I just knew my time was ending there, and I love doing basketball. I would still be doing basketball today if the opportunity was there. Of course, Howie and I have been doing the Jackson County Tournament the last couple of years, but that's all we've done. And I like doing basketball better than I do football. Yeah, I knew my time was ending at Scottsboro. I could just kind of tell it. And I did. I was like, I'm going to give this up. Maybe something else will come along. I don't know. But I just, at the end of the season in 2006 or 7, I can't remember when it was, I just decided that was it. And I just walked away and decided I wasn't going to do it anymore.
Now, the reason that you like doing basketball better is because of who you're working with, or?
Yeah, that's definitely it. When you got Howie Chaney beside you and he knows the game and I don't, because and I've told Howie this a million times, you're a big help because I have no clue about the X's and O's of basketball. Now I know the flow, I know the energy, and I know the storytelling part of it, but I think that maybe I keep it basic as I can because I don't know the X's and O's of basketball. I just tell the story that's in front of me, and then Howie adds the color part that I really don't understand.
Howie, I'll come to you after this question. I'm going to wrap up with Phil on this section. When about 10 years ago, I decided to take another job back in radio with play-by-play over at Sequatchie County. I talked to you, and most of my career had been some play-by-play, some color. I've never really been dedicated year in, year out to play-by-play, and it never was. You were always more serious about it. I had fun, but you were always more serious about getting a good broadcast. You gave me some advice that was invaluable to me at that time. Down in distance, time on the clock, and you said it's more important what happened at the end of the play than what the beginning of a play. Explain that all to me over the years.
Well, I listen to a lot of broadcasts and still do, and what infuriates me is when they don't tell the score and clock time, especially when they go into commercials, because that's what most people's listening for. A lot of people don't understand the jargon, that you're talking about. They don't really know the game. You want to try to keep it as basic as you can, like who made the tackle. As many names as you can mention is what's important.
I think
But it's about down and distance and clock time. That's what people wants to know the most, because they might be driving and are distracted, but they hear when you tell the score. They catch that part of it. So that's always what I've always told anybody that's ever asked me. Be sure you tell time, down and distance, and every once in a while, and tell the score every once in a while, but be sure down and distance. Because that's the most important part of broadcasting is keep it basic, keep it simple. And, and then as the game slows down for you, then you can add all the color part of it. Because if you get too much going through your head, you get confused and you mess up a lot.
In recap, that's something I'll stole to you. I recap the game. Scottsboro was up 14-7 in the second quarter when North Jackson drove and tied the game, and since then it's 28. Just what happened over the last two quarters. I think a lot of times people forget that is to recap, so you in a 30-second blog, you could get out everything that happened in that game that was important.
Yeah, you're definitely right. And I used to do that a lot, score and summary, and then I'd backtrack during the game, like maybe the end of the third quarter. I'd tell what happened up to that point, because you may have people that join the game right after halftime and don't really know how you got where you are, why it's 28-7. And folks are interested in that. They want to know, they hear the score 28-7, but they don't know why it's 28-7. And so I think that's good, to backtrack. To let listeners know. And like you said, sometimes they forget how it got there.
Howie, I'll come to you. We got one more quote here, and I'm not going to read it all. I'm going to send it to you. And I'll let you guess who this from. He said he had one quote. He would always, if somebody was getting the best of him in a game, he would change the rules to suit his advantage. He made up rules, but it's his game, and so he would know. Phil, would you like to guess who told us that you'd make up scores and rules?
I can only imagine. I can only imagine who that might be. But I can tell you this is he'll say that because he couldn't beat me.
All right, and his nickname may be Phil's brother. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the days when Phil was in Scottsboro. Cell phones was very, very popular at the time, but texting was something kind of new. And I would sit at home and listen to him broadcast the game. But I would get on the internet and find out scores and text him the scores where he could broadcast it out to the people. And I thought that was getting on his nerves, so I quit doing it. And then he got in contact with me and said, "Hey, anytime you got a score, send it to me. It adds more to the broadcast." Do you remember when I do that stuff?
Yeah, because anytime it does, because in the old days you couldn't get any of that information. You only knew what was going on in your game, and like if the PA announcer got a score, it's because somebody called and told him. So that's the only time you would hear anything, and it's always nice to hear what's going on. If you're broadcasting, let's say Scottsboro, what's going on at Gunners or what's going on at Boaz? You want to know those, especially when you get into the region part of it, because there's people wants to know, we're in first place and so-and-so's in second. How are they doing? And you want to know those things, and it does add a lot.
I remember sitting there listening one night, and I don't remember who Scottsboro was playing, but Scottsboro kept the ball for the whole first quarter. And I think they ended up scoring with the second play of the second quarter. And I sent you a text, and I'm like, "Phil, I've never seen or heard anything like that in my life." And I don't know if you realize what you'd done, but when you came back from that commercial break, he was like, "You're absolutely right, Howie Cheney. I've never heard or saw anything like that myself in my whole life." And I'm like, "Well, there's my answer."
Because how often can a team, especially high school, put together a drive like that and not have any mistakes, totally execute? Because if you have a drive like that, it's probably 18 to 20 plays. You have to have execution on just about every play. Very rare does that happen, especially today when teams score in 3 or 4 plays quite often. If you make a team go 12, 14 plays in a drive, they're probably going to mess up at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially at high school, like you said, because you don't even see it in college and pros either. There's always, everybody's got at least one or two possessions a quarter. But on that one there, it was just, it was Scottsboro all the way. Randy, what you got for us?
Just making sure we're hitting the give butter below, and it's up, and you can donate. You go into it. There's a icon of Phil. Choose his character like it's a video game.
Yeah.
And you select Phil's face, which if you can look past that and donate some money, because at the end of the day, if we could raise a couple of dollars for the transplant games, that's what we're here for. Go ahead, Howard.
Well, and that don't just benefit me; it benefits others, especially people that may not be able to raise money because it costs $2,500 per athlete, counting housing, food, and everything. You're there for 5 days, and you want as many people to participate as you can because it's a special time. From what I understand, when they do the opening ceremony, it's very emotional, and I'm really looking forward to it. The guy that's the co-manager who we had on, Stan Smith, he told me, he says, there will not be a dry eye in the place. I promise you.
How he pick up, and we know Phil's a big softy anyway, so I'm sure it'll get him too. Go ahead.
Yeah. Something that I brought up earlier was about Randy was about Phil not drinking no water during the broadcast, but I did learn that go and buy him something, he will drink it.
Oh,
he won't drink the whole thing, but he'll take a few sips of it. He can't resist taking a couple sips of
it. Yeah, I will just a little bit. I don't know what that. Sometimes at supper I won't even drink anything. I don't know why that is. I understand what y'all are saying. I never paid that much attention to it, but yeah, I guess I don't get a dry mouth or anything like that. I really don't understand why I'm that way. I don't know if it's nerves, if it may bother my stomach. I really don't know. Never really even thought about it.
So
I'm on pain medicine right now, so it makes my mouth dry. So that's the reason.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because I'm sitting here with 3 bark bases on trying to be still. So
yeah,
I'm fighting through the pain. Go ahead, Howie Chaney.
So you finished up at Scottsboro. Let's move on to how did you get involved with WQSB?
Well, when I left Scottsboro, I had no clue what I was going to do. I think it was on a Friday when I told them that I wasn't going to do it anymore. And, of course, I talked to Campbell Smith was the main one I talked to, and God rest his soul. I thought the world of him. But he's the one that told Ron, said, just leave Phil alone. He needs some time. He goes, well, do you think he might do basketball? He goes, just leave him alone, Ron. I said, he needs some time. So I left there on Friday, and on Tuesday, Jeff Allen called me and asked me if I'd be interested in the scoreboard. And I said, well, I've never done anything like that, but I'm willing to try. And he told me how much he'd pay, how much they would pay me. And he said, I want you to give it a try if you will. And I said, well, I'll try. And of course, first time, of course, you had to, adjust and learn. And Jeff and I had to learn to work together. But it was amazing that just about 5 days after I had quit one job, I get a call for another one, and the rest is history. I have really enjoyed being on the scoreboard. I have really flourished in that show. And like I say, it's to promote communities, coaches, players, fans, anything we can do to promote our communities, because our local football and basketball is so well supported, and we're just a part of that. And it's amazing how fans flock to our sports, because when you go over to Huntsville and those kids are playing in front of empty stands, and that's sad. And I hate that. So anything we can do to promote high school sports, we want to do, because we want those fans in the stands. That's what it's all about.
So how do you think that Jeff found out that you was gone in that short amount of time?
I don't know. He never did really say. I guess, word of mouth, comes real fast. And the one thing was, I kind of sort of stayed in with Jeff. Is a lot of times on Scottsboro games, when I was on my way home, I would call the station. I needed something to keep me going driving home because a lot of times it's late at night, especially if I had a game over in Huntsville. And I would call the station, probably about every other week and talk to him on the air. So we had kind of gotten to know each other that way. And then plus two, like when I was doing games for like Pisgah, WQSB would come do their scoreboard show live from one night. It was at Pisgah during the playoffs. So I talked to him there. So I kind of sort of, Jeff and I had kind of gotten to know each other. So I guess when he found out he needed somebody and it just was the right timing, I guess.
Randy, it seems like you got something to put in.
Oh, nothing. No. I actually think you're doing a good job. I will ask something since do it to me. Phil, do you ever miss the challenge of doing a live game?
Yeah, at times I do. But, I miss basketball more than I do football because like I told you, I would much rather do basketball. And like one other game, Howard, you asked about my games I remembered. Well, one was doing the state championship game when John Kirby was the coach at Pisgah. So John, good friend of mine, we played high school football together, the coach. And then Jim Kirby, who was my high school coach, did color with me. And that was a very monumental, memorable moment. Even though Pisgah lost the game, it was just, for Coach Kirby to be in the booth beside me, and he and I had become such close friends, meant a whole lot. I know it meant a lot to John. And I think John still got the recording of a lot of the games we did. But that right there was a very monumental moment. I did get to call one state championship game.
Where was that game at?
That was when it was in Birmingham at Legion Field. Yeah.
I didn't know if they had started doing them in Birmingham at that time or not. So
yeah, it was at Birmingham at Legion Field at that time.
Bill, being a Valley Head graduate, could you add to what it was like to call the 1A girls state final when Valley Head? And I was with you that day. I think for you that was an important day too.
Yeah, yes, it was a lot of fun, but I really was. That's truly why I was heartbroken for them when they lost that game. A freshman hits a 3-pointer at the buzzer. And I think it still goes back to, Fife played that day too, and they won the state championship that year. But I still goes back to, yes, when Valley Head's winning, it's special, and I enjoy that. But still, on the other hand, it's about those kids. I wasn't really disappointed for Valley Head. I was disappointed for the players and the coaching staff and the fans. It doesn't matter what color you wear, it's just, your heart breaks for the kids when things like that happens. And, because it's something that, they will always remember. And, like Coach Jamie Pruitt talked about, it was nice to walk in that 1A girls state final and walk in and hug necks. And it was happy tears instead of sad tears. He said that's probably one of the best things about winning the state championship.
Allie, back at you. But that night also, Phil brought it up. You just hit my memory. Ray Houston, I think was her name then. Am I correct? Was it Houston, her maiden name? That played at Fife, won her 5th state title that night. For Fife, what was her maiden name? It's been a guest on here, Allie. Ray, basketball player from Fife. Heather Powell, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Heather Mays. Okay, I get you now.
Won her 5th title about an hour later.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She was an amazing player. She's one of them that could have averaged 40 points a game or more if she'd have wanted to. She was very unselfish at times. And I remember Coach Cochran used to get to her. He wanted her to be selfish sometimes, but she was not that kind of player. But she had a great supporting cast at the time when she was at Fife.
Coach, you'll have to forgive me for messing up your name. It's been 30 years, so of course I got it wrong. Howie, go ahead, buddy. Let's finish up then with the studio show.
Yeah, well, actually, I want to go back to Valley Head real quick. I remember me and Phil did a Valley Head game at the old gym in Valley Head up on a video perch there that's only made really for one person, but yet both of us and all the equipment was up there, and we did a game up there. And I ain't gonna say I've never been as nervous, but being up on that little perch there with me, Phil, and all the radio equipment, I wasn't sure if we was gonna stay up there the whole game or not.
Yeah, I mean, was that the night that Valley Head played Fort Payne?
I think Valley had played section that night.
Was it section that night? I know one time we did a game up there, and it was Valley Head played Fort Payne, and then I know there was some important games because I remember because Bobby Holloway was the girls' coach at that time. Boy, they had some good teams, but yeah, that's a little shaky being up there. You couldn't be a little because you'd be toppling off a chair and down onto somebody. But yeah, that was kind of a tough. But we had a good view of the court there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, you couldn't move. If you moved very much, something was going to fall. So,
yeah.
Back to the studio show with QSB and everything. You've been there for how long now? What, 15 years?
Well, this fall will be the 17th year, I think.
17
if I have my
years.
math right. Yeah. It'll be 17th year.
Y'all have a lot of regulars that call in, and so I know you've got acquainted with a lot of them. Is there some of them you'd like to mention?
That what?
I know you've had some of regular people that have called in on a regular basis. Like I can't think of their name right now, but would you want to mention a couple of them that you enjoy listening to when they do call in?
Well, it's always, of course, a lot of the call that are coaches, they're great to hear from. Mike Robertson from Hoax Bluff. He's always entertaining. Coach Pruitt a lot of times. Dale Pruitt at Plainview call in a lot of times. Coach Van calls in. Coach Benefield, it's hard to pry anything out of him. But he's always loyal to call and talk to him. Call and talk to us. But I enjoy all of them. Over time, when you get to know them over there and you know kind of what questions to ask them, that's what makes it fun. Because as you interact more with them and get to know them, you know what kind of questions that will kind of get them going. And I tell you, one that's fun to interview is Lee Osmond at Arab. He has a lot of. He's very intellectual, very pro kid oriented. He really loves his players, and he's very emotional. And I enjoy talking with him a lot.
Hey, Al, I just remember the guy that always calls in and goes, "Roll, tribe, roll."
Hatchie.
I think that's just my
Hatchie
coming out.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun. He's called long before I was there, but yeah, it's always great to have him on because a lot of times Jeff has tried to have guests come on, but when we've tried to do that, it seems like every time we get there and somebody will say something about the referees or something, and that's the last thing we want to talk about because we want to stay positive in everything we do. So the loyal people, yeah, he'll call in and he'll let them talk because a lot of times if we try to go off grid, we get burned a lot of times.
Yeah, and you told me one time that y'all could also get fined or something like that, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, you can if you talk about the officials and somebody turns you in, you can get in trouble for it. Just any broadcaster can. And and I know you got places where the officiating's not good, but you have to put that aside. Like I tell people, you can't worry about that. If you're good enough, you're going to win the ball game anyway. You'll find a way. And that's just part of the game. It's just part of the things you have to deal with.
That's the first time I've heard you say that, you've told people. Most times I've told Chrissy, but this time you said I've told people this before.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know Chrissy got mad at me in one football game because I kept, the officiating was not good. I promise you, it was not good. And I told her, I said, just watch the game. You can't do anything about that. Just watch the game. And she got mad at me. She really got mad at me. But Betty had ended up winning anyway. So it all turned out, all that was forgotten. But sometimes you just have to do that. You have to kind of put that aside because it'll ruin your game by, concentrating on something besides supporting those kids.
Al, if you look at my car right now, there's a speeding ticket for going 50 in Saudi Daisy and a letter from the TSSAA for something I said on the air they wanted me to correct. So, yeah, they will. They listen more than you think they do.
Yeah.
Randy, you want to kick us off on this? Not really the main reason, but one of the reasons that we're here.
Before I do, I want to talk about something, Phil, and you don't have to talk about it. Let's just point it out. Friday, you're dedicated to this show. Saturdays, on most days, you're headed to a college football game somewhere. So it's just not Friday night. It's Saturday for you too.
Yeah, well, a lot of times I have to work on Saturday morning too before I go to the game on Saturdays. but I enjoy going to Knoxville to the ball games. It's tough getting there. Of course, Chrissy a lot of times gets us there, but I enjoy that part of it. And what I enjoy the most, more than the football game, is the people you get to know around you, the relationships. That's what you get to looking forward to. It's, of course, it's about those guys between the white lines, and you want to watch the game, but it's the people watching. It's so fun. We sit by the student section, and you're going to have a story to tell just about every game.
Yeah, and you learned what a Jew dog was sitting up there too.
Yeah. Yeah. Had mustard spilt on me a few times. I mean, there's been all kinds of stuff happen.
Speaking of your lovely wife, there's so much I could say and how proud I am. The person, he generally wants good things for everyone, strives to be polite, influences others, especially young people. I've watched him interact with people. I've watched him interact with some of the local players that think he's cool because he's on the football scoreboard show on Friday night, but he never makes anything about it, about him. He'll talk to them. Let's skip down a little bit. There was something I wanted to hit in here. He's never said "poor me" throughout his life. He also completed his bachelor's degree. Through all of this, he was determined, and I guess it was just as determined for him to finish. We have a joke. This joke is real. We have a joke in the family where everybody refers to themselves as, out in public, as Phil's wife, Phil's mother, Phil's brother, just to poke fun at him. Your lovely wife is part of your story, and she's done a lot for you to be able to do this over the years.
Oh, definitely so. She's been my supporting cast, as many times as I've been away on Friday nights, been away in basketball games. And she even reminded me of the night that you and I had to go do a game, and she was sick in bed with strep throat by herself. So she brought that up just recently. But, oh, yeah, she has been my number one supporter. She was with me throughout the transplant process, throughout my rec, and she's always been there. And I do appreciate her so much for that, because all she's done, because she's gone above and beyond what most people will ever do. But it's helped make me a better person also.
And on Saturdays, she's responsible for you, me, and Andrew Howard. So she's got her hand full on Saturdays.
Yeah, definitely so. Definitely so. Yeah. Yeah. We'll have to say that. She gets us there and back sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's skip ahead and we'll come back. We want to talk about the transplant games again. Phil, of course, our liver receiver 4 years ago, so much has went into that process, and we want to hit on it. But before we go to that, Phil, and spend 5 minutes on it at the end of the show, I stayed after you for many, many years, and I never really went, Phil, do this. Phil, I didn't bug you. I just kind of started RiverCity Media, and I told you up front when I started it, part of the reason I started it was you, that I wanted you on here. But I never continuously bugged you, but finally you showed some interest in it, and I think we've learned to really enjoy this every Monday.
Yeah. I never really thought I would do this. I've never watched podcasts much. I've never been that much interested, but I've always loved radio. But over time, I guess, where I've done media days, done the scoreboard show, I guess it's kind of sort of set me up into this kind of thing, because a lot of the scoreboard show is an interviewing process. And you want to, when I have a coach come on the scoreboard show, I don't want to ask him the same old questions. I want to find something a little bit different, even if it's to find out what he had for supper the night before. Just something different, because I want people to understand that there's more to it than being a football coach and those kids out there, that there's people involved and what goes into showing you that final product on Friday night. That's what I want to find out. So I guess since I started doing this podcast, and we can actually bring a coach in, set him down, let him get comfortable, and ask him questions about, not go deep into his personal life, but find out what makes him tick and what's made him, how he's gotten to where he's at today. That's what makes it fun. I guess that's what's made it enjoyable for me doing the podcast, because all coaches we have on, and players and whoever we have on, open up and are honest and are transparent, and that's what I enjoy.
Coach Rivers, I saw him the Tuesday after on the show Monday, and he grabbed me and understand Coach Rivers is a bear of the man. I'm 6'4", 300 pounds, and he tears over me. And he pulled me up tight to him and was shaking his hand. He goes, y'all got me with some of those questions the other night. And that's really what it's about. That's the most I heard Coach Rivers opened up about his personal life, playing football at UTC.
Yeah, and that's what I want to do. I want him to, to enjoy that. And even Kerry Ellison told me after we talked to him, he sent me a message. Anytime y'all want to have me on, I'll be on again because I can work on my public relations skills. So I enjoyed that. And you could tell he got comfortable as the night went on. And that's what it's about, and talking about as many kids as we can. And of course, you and I have talked about this. We're going to attempt to have more student athletes on because we want to hear their story. We don't want to exploit them in any way, especially when they go through their recruiting process. And Sam Evans was a fine example, a smart young man, and he gave us some great answers, especially regarding the recruiting process.
Absolutely. So let's go to the absolutely. And I think I'm not going to get off on a show tangent, but student athletes that are out there, if you'd like to be part of the show, we maybe not have as many contacts with you as we do coaches. So if you're interested in the show, let us know. Send me an email. It's all up on RiverCity Media. We'd love to talk to you.
Yeah, of course, and too, though, we want to talk to their parents first just to make sure it's okay. We don't want to exploit them in any way.
Absolutely. And, like with Sam, we've talked to his dad, Joey, who's just a big supporter of ours. So before we go, and Howie, I want to get you involved in this too. I want to go back, Phil, and I want to talk a little bit about your transplant. And it's part of your story, and it's an important part to me. It really changed Phil Harris, the man that I know. Tell us a little bit about the process of becoming who you are today.
Well, I think, and I think a lot of people go through this. I was diagnosed with the liver disease I had, which is non-alcohol cirrhosis of the liver. It puts life into perspective. There's something wrong, and your days may be limited. So you start living every day and try not to waste any time because, there's no guarantee for tomorrow. And I think, and that's what kind of started me thinking. And as I went through the process and got a liver, and it totally changed my whole life perspective. I pay attention a lot more to the little things. I know how important it is with relationships with other people, how to try to be positive as best as you can, how to promote others, because, the one thing I've always said, I want to leave this world a better place than I found it. And, and that's kind of what I live by. And because that's the way I want it to be, because one of these days I'm going to meet my maker and I want him to pat me on the shoulder and tell me good job.
Phil, your love for young people, though, I really, and there's a quote from me in here. It really doesn't matter. I asked my daughter what she would say about you. And she said, first and foremost, I want to say thank you for everything you do for her. And she said the same thing. And I know it's my daughter and we're friends, but you have that passion for all young people.
Yes, I do. I want them to be, great people in life. And like I said, it doesn't matter what color they wear because it's about them. It's about these kids. I think it's great for kids to play competitive sports because they learn so much about life. You have your ups, you have your downs, you set goals. You have to adjust your goals. But at the end of the day, it don't matter how many games you win or lose. If you lose every game, you still got to get up and go to practice the next day. On Monday morning, you could have had the worst weekend ever, but you still got to get up and go to work every day because people's counting on you. It's that way in football, basketball, whatever sport you play. It's also in life. When you go to your work every day, there's people counting on you, and you can't come down.
You notice he said that, Howie, right after I missed a day with my back hurting. So I just let him know that. So, he likes to take a dig at me every now and then. Yeah. Sorry, folks at work, for not showing up today. but I do have 3 braces on. Howie, let's talk a little bit about. Did you know, Howie, what this was? I didn't until we got involved. The transplant game, and I think it's such a great story that you're going to have all these athletes that have, heart transplants, lungs transplants, liver transplants. I never had heard of it. Had you?
No, I never heard of it. And a guy I have a lot of dealings with here in Fort Payne, Cleve Chisenhall, he had a transplant back 2 or 3 years ago, not long after you had yours. And I asked him, after you told me you was going to be participating, I asked him, I said, are you going to, I said, Cleve, are you participating in it? He's like, what is it? I don't know what it is. I said, have you not heard about it? He said, I got an email, but he said, I didn't pay no attention to it. But now I think he's considering signing up and doing something as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I want to invite everybody, especially here in Alabama. Of course, I mean, there's other states too, because we've got people coming from all states all around the country, even from other countries that'll be coming to Birmingham, and it's going to be a lot of fun. They've been trying for years to get the Transplant Games to come to Birmingham, and they finally made it happen. So I worked around, got on the executive committee, and then decided, I'm going to participate in games because I think I'm healthy enough to be able to participate in several sports. I'm looking forward to it. But yes, a lot of people haven't heard of the Transplant Games, but it's a wonderful thing.
You're healthy enough to participate, but are you athletic enough?
Maybe. I was at one time. Now in school, I played tennis and baseball and basketball. I have played a good bit of golf. I'm not great at it, by no means. I guess I'm I'm not as well-rounded as I used to be, but I guess you could say that. It's kind of sort of, I'm not a great athlete, but maybe I'm a well-rounded athlete, I guess you could call it.
So, well, you're not well-rounded like Randy is, but that's a whole different well-rounded.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah. Well, he hurt his back. Chrissy said, reckon how he hurt his back? I said, he probably tried to tie his shoe.
So what are you going to be participating in, Phil?
Oh, Lord. I think I signed up for bowling, basketball, and I'm only going to play basketball if they don't have enough team members. It's not because I'm any good at it. I know I'm going to play singles tennis, team golf, probably pickleball, mixed doubles. You're only allowed to participate in one sport every day, but I signed up for a sport every day just to participate. I mean, you don't have to be great at them. I played them all. I'm not good at any of them. But I want to participate. The biggest one I want to participate in is tennis.
It's like I told Cleve. He's like, what would I participate in? I said, I know they got golf. I said, that's what Phil had told me first you signing up for. He's like, well, yeah, I might do the golf thing. So there's something out there for everyone.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they even have, I think they have darts. They have some kind of trivia, Olympics. There's all kind of different sports. I think they even have a card Olympic sport that, it's Texas Hold'em, I think is what it is. You don't have to be athletic and participate in some things. And a lot of them will just like say in bowling because there's so many that will participate in that. And there's medals to be won. And of course, I don't know how many athletes are going to be there. There'll probably be several. But there's an opportunity to win medals.
If there's an eating contest, I could sign up for that.
Yeah, I don't think they go. Yeah, I don't know if that's one of them because most of it that's probably had transplants probably have to eat a little bit healthier lifestyle. So I don't think they want to promote anything like Crystal Burger eating contests because it may cause you to have liver failure.
Let me take over for y'all hurt my feelings. What made him quit playing golf, Howie, was a one-handed man would beat us both every week. So shout out Todd Simpson.
Oh, Lord, yeah. Oh, yeah. He used to – you crush the ball, and he hit it right down the middle and wouldn't hit it from here to a wall. But then he while you're hitting it all over the golf course, he hits it about 20 yards right in front of you, and then he'll beat you to the hole every time. It was just unreal.
And for the record, I was mopping, Chrissy. I was mopping, okay? I was trying to clean my nasty house when it happened. Screw 64 hit screw 65 in my back, and I've been stove up since then. Hey, Phil, just want to hit it. First off, thank you for doing this because I kind of hit you with this. The last minute was like, hey, I know who I want to have on. And it was really about your journey, but it's about the Transplant Olympics too. But I want to ask you about, before we get off here, I want to ask you about how is this and what you went through with the transplant um, situation, how has it changed? What do you value in life? I guess is a word.
Well, like I said before, you get to the point where wisdom comes in. You got more years, but behind you than you do ahead of you. And I think you want to try to make this world a better place. The big thing is you want to promote others, and try to make others' lives better. And I have gotten more involved. Like I've gotten on the board of the DeKalb County Sports Hall of Fame. I got on the executive committee because you want to make a difference. And it takes one person at a time. A lot of people sit back and talk, but they're not doers. And I decided I'm going to be a doer for the rest of my life because what I want to do with what I receive, what I got from all my friends that helped us through all the transplant and everything that happened to me, I want to pay it forward. And I'm going to do it for the rest of my life because that's what this life's all about is, when you were down, everybody helped you. Now it's your turn to help everybody else. And I'm going to do whatever I can that's in my power to try to help others.
We don't talk about it much here, but you're also a member of the Volunteer Athletic Scholarship Fund, where you give money each year. We buy football tickets, but that money goes to support athletes in every form at the University of Tennessee.
Oh, definitely. So, yeah, and you want to see that happen. Not only get you to see them play, but you're also helping to try to support them. And that's what it's all about. Also, it's more than just going to a football game because those kids respond. They respond to that, and they love you for it, and they enjoy their time while they're playing athletics.
And we might get, Phil, I think sometimes what means the most to me is we'll get a phone call about once a year, and it might be for a tennis player from South Africa just thanking us for a donation, So that always means the world to me because people think you buy football tickets just to go to the football game, but the level and dedication we show the University of Tennessee, it's got to be about more than just football.
I remember that time I played a joke on you when we had season tickets when Phil Fulmer was the coach that I told you that Phil Fulmer called our house about thanking us for buying season tickets, and you fell for it. You thought that was that, but he had really called us.
Yeah, I did.
But it was recording. He got you good, but he didn't call me.
I got a call from Letty Alexis, the third string striker on the soccer team, and I was like, how's he getting Phil Fulmer and I'm getting Letty? How he changed close out tonight.
Phil, I don't know if I've ever told you or not, but I appreciate everything that you've done for me and my family. You walked up to my oldest daughter one night. We was all together eating in Chattanooga, and you walked up to her, put your arm around her, and said, "Keep working hard. You'll get what you need in life. It'll come to you." And that meant a lot to her, and meant a lot to me too, because you've known me for a long time, but you hadn't really been around my kids a whole lot. The admiration and the I don't really know what to say, but the being willing to help kids any way possible, that goes a long way. I appreciate what you do. Countless amount of people has told me the same thing, that knows that I know you, and they're like, tell Phil we appreciate what he does for us.
Yeah, we hear that a lot on scoreboard, and that's that's what it's all about. Is people need role models, so you want to inspire others, and you want to try to live your life. Nobody's perfect, but you do want to inspire others, and the best way to start that is with young people because they're very influential at a young age. And anytime you can pat them on the back, put your arm around them, tell them thank you, and and you appreciate what they do, because coaches tell them that all the time, but they don't hear it from outside sources enough. I've heard many times where a coach will say they don't listen to me, but they'll listen to somebody like you that's an outsider that don't know them from Adam's house cat.
Absolutely.
How if you want to make Anna Lee Cunningham mad, tell her that Phil Harris isn't her uncle. Because I made that mistake one day and she's about ready to rip me apart. I was like, well, Phil's brother. And she goes, what? You're not Phil's brother? And I was like, oh, no, thank God. No, I'm not his brother. And
Yeah.
she goes, well, he's still my Uncle Phil. And I appreciate it if you wouldn't say that about him.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we had a couple convinced one night that Randy and I were brothers. That's the only thing difference between us. He's a glass licker. I said, that's the only difference between us two. And she goes, there's no way. Y'all can't be brothers. You don't even look alike. Oh, we had them going. But, it's a lot. It's a lot of fun. We're not brothers in the sense of family, but it's always had good friends that you treat like brothers.
Yeah, absolutely. And,
y'all were brothers from different mom and daddies.
well, Phil was fat back then. Phil was fat, Howie. We looked more like brothers back then. I've outgrown him now. Nobody'd buy it anymore. So they
we've gone a few places together, me and Phil, and me and you, Randy, and the time that all three of us have gone places to either eat or ball games or whatever, it's always very entertaining. There should be a camera around because the way y'all two get along is just like the way brothers would get along.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's the first. It's one of those where you throw somebody you throw each other under the bus, and then you back the bus up.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Unless you get put in jail, and then they'll come bail you out. But that's another story for another day.
And they'll laugh at you first, though, won't they?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. One more time. Transplant Games. Give butter below. It's scrolling. I actually made it scroll. Go in. Scroll down. I think Phil is the third down on the left side. Everybody's trying to raise, I think it's $2,500. So if you could help out RiverCity Media and give our brother a little donation, we'd appreciate it. This will be up. It'll be pinned until the transplant game on the RiverCity site. And Phil, anything you want to say to close tonight?
Well, I appreciate being on, and I'm really looking forward to the transplant games and being able to participate because if it wasn't for being a liver recipient, I wouldn't be here today. And I always think about there's a fellow I know, Jeff Pike, who was from Ider that lost his life in an accident at work, but he was an organ donor. So he gave life because he was an organ donor when he got hurt at work. And I so think about him often because he and I were friends right outside of high school. He played football at Ider when I played at Motherhead. But there's people like that you have kind of tie-ins with. That also makes this kind of thing special because I'm a recipient. He was a donor, but his spirit and his legacy lives on in other people. And what better way to go out is to leave your legacy for somebody else.
Couldn't say it better, no matter if I tried for years. For Howie Cheney, for Phil Harris, Randall Cunningham, this is Beyond the Booth. Next week, come back and join us. Glenn Hicks, Coach Glenn Hicks from Sylvania is going to be here. So good night. God bless, and we'll see you next week.
Go team.